We are one episode away. We're not counting this one, but we are one episode away from episode 70 of Hoops Across the Mountain State. And that means that we are slowly approaching 100 episodes. We just had 50, which seems like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't. It wasn't. But we are slowly approaching 100, and it has been a tremendous journey. And guess what? We're not looking any further than this episode right here because we got another spectacular guest. For however you may be listening or watching this, you can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7, where you can find all the latest updates about the podcast, merchandise, stuff like that, shirts, getting hoodies soon, hats, you name it. We're getting it. We're going to come out with it. Trust me, you will not want to miss the future of this podcast. But again, you can always subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. Well, let's dive right in. And as you all know, I love bios, and this is a great one as well. So let's dive right into this. So as I mentioned in our last episode with Josiah Davis, came from Kitchener, Canada. I'm very glad I got that correct. I'm glad Josiah established that before we got into the podcast, because if not, that would have hung over my head for the rest of my life. Not kidding, because I really like to get pronunciation correctly. But anyways, we have another foreign player as well that came to the United States and also played at Teays Valley Christian as well. My guest was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to Belgium when he was 9 years old. He played at Teays Valley during his prep career, then started his collegiate career at Glenville State, where he averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in 28 games for the Pioneers. And he shot 50% from the field, and he shot 45% from three-point land. One could say he had the hot hand consistently. I'm just saying, I'll let him brag about that more when we get into this. But he was also granted a waiver by the NCAA for immediate eligibility after transferring from Glenville, and where he's now at Southern Illinois for the none other than probably my favorite nickname, the Salukis. I love that. I love that so much. Last year, he played all 26 games. Well, yeah, his sophomore season, he played all 26 games and started the final 16 games of the season, averaged 7 points and 3 rebounds, the team's 5th leading scorer. He averaged 26 minutes per game, which was the 4th most on his team, shot 37% from 3, and get this, he scored in double figures 9 times last season. My man can score, just saying. And also get this, he shot 32 of 71 for an average of 40% from 3. That was the 6th best percentage in the league, in the Mountain Valley Conference. Not a big deal. It's a pretty big deal, actually. But not Mountain Valley, Missouri Valley Conference. Excuse me, I misspoke. But anyway, he sort of, I heard him. He's like, there you go. Okay. But anyway,
there you
go. Let's dive right into episode 69 of Hoops Across the Mountain State with our tremendous guest, Steven Verplancken. Steven, welcome to the program, my friend.
Hey, thank you, man. The bio is really nice. I'm excited to be here. Listen to a couple of your podcasts before, former teammates and former high school coach. I'm excited to be on.
Absolutely. Well, how's everything been for you, my man? It's been a while since we last talked. How's everything going for you?
Everything is good, man. We just started official practice last week, Tuesday. We have an exhibition coming up end of the month. So everything's good, man. Just ramping up for the season and taking care of the schoolwork and living the dream, man.
Well, give us a quick scouting report. How does the team look this year?
We're really good. Like, we have all returning pieces from last year, and we added 4 pieces, 3 freshmen and 1 transfer. All guys are very good. I think our strength this year is, like, we have, like coach likes to say, we have strengths in numbers. Like, we are so deep. Like, we're so good, so deep, very competitive team. So I think it's looking good.
I like to hear that. Before we continue, okay, so I know I butchered the name, but what's it like playing the Missouri Valley Conference? Because you guys produce a lot of great games and teams as well, like Loyola, Chicago, Drake, Valparaiso, Northern Iowa, for that matter. Just a lot of great teams. What's that like for you playing in the Missouri Valley Conference?
Well, last year was my first experience. The guys that were here before and played in the conference, told me it was like just a grind. And honestly, like, experience from last year is just a war. Like, every night is a war. Like, it's so hard to get a win on the road. You have to defend home court. It's just such a, like, league too. Like, it's just hard to score in that league, and just a grind, like I said, a war.
Well, again, that's just a little snippet of what we're going to go over with Steven. But again, you all know I like to go in a lot of different directions with my guests. So just to give a little of background for what we're going to be going over, we're going to go over how and just Steven's experience coming from Belgium to the United States, his house family, the Morris family, who I'm very close with as well. So we'll talk about that and that experience and just sort of what they've been like for him over these last few years, being his house family here in the States, going to TVCS, his memories playing there, a lot of tremendous games that we'll hit on. His coaches, Coach Arrowood, Coach Tar, we'll talk about them and just the culture that they established at Teays Valley. Recruiting last season, obviously, at Southern Illinois. I mentioned his stats as well. And we'll also talk about his freshman season that he played at Glenville State as well. And then we'll sort of touch on player development. What does he want to accomplish this year as well ahead of this upcoming 21-22 season? And let's get right to it. So, Steven, like I said, let's start with coming to the United States. Before you came to the States, and especially before you came to West Virginia, had you ever heard of West Virginia? I mean, did you ever have like a worldwide test and you had to point out everything? Had you ever heard of West Virginia?
Honestly, it's funny that you asked that because I never heard of West Virginia. And ironically, like when I thought I was coming to the States, I asked my dad, I was like, are you going to New York, to LA? Where am I going to? You know, like that's all I knew. Like I knew there was different states, but like I thought I was going to a big city. And then when my dad explained I was going to West Virginia, then he played the song Mount Mama, and that's how I got introduced to West Virginia.
So Josiah Davis in our last episode, he mentioned how whenever he got here, they're just like, are they just dropping me off here and just letting me just out here in the middle of nowhere? Am I just stuck out here? Did you ever have that thought? Be honest.
When I first, no, not even that. But like when I first landed in the airport, I still remember. I think it was like December 16th. Teresa, my host mom, picked me up. Her dad and Brad. When we drove off the hill at the Yeager Airport, I was like, I don't know what I got myself into. I saw the hills. I saw a lot of trees, not a lot of houses. So I was like, ooh, be in for one.
Will take me back to your younger days, because as people know, I'm good friends with Steven, but I don't know this aspect of his life. So this is going to fascinate me in a number of ways. So Steven, walk me through this. Basketball overseas in Belgium, what's that like for you? And who are some people that you looked up to overseas that really got you connected to basketball?
Basketball. So like the basketball system overseas works way different than it is in the States. In the States, you play for your school, like you play for the high school, you represent the high school, and your school is like in college, universities. And this and Europe, it's totally different. So you have school, and then you play for a club. Like most towns have a separate club. So it's just a different system. Like you play by ages and not by grade. So it's like under 16s, under 18s, under 21s, and then you have the professional leagues from there on. So that was definitely an adjustment coming to high school, playing like 4-year school, having your teachers at the game, students at the game, because in Belgium, we never really had any of that. And you said the second part is like how, like, think people I looked up to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Growing up, I watched a little bit of everything. I was a big Duke fan. Like Duke
Oh,
fan.
this
That's
podcast is over. This podcast is over. We're done. This podcast is over.
Hey,
You can't be bringing Duke into this. No, please.
no, that's how honestly that's how I got introduced to college and high school basketball. Like the route of going that way, because like we only had like one ESPN channel back then, and they only would show like ACC games or SEC games, and Duke was around on. So like that was my inspiration to come into the States and like stuff like that. Or I knew all the players. Like I was always a huge LeBron fan growing up, and like Carmelo, Chris Paul when he was with New Orleans and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got introduced to basketball. And then honestly, I still remember the day I first heard about the name Kobe Bryant. Was one of mine, because I was just started playing basketball. All my buddies had played basketball in school, and he's like, you know who Kobe Bryant is? And we had the NBA sticker books thing back in the day, and that's how I just grew my knowledge, honestly.
How about that? I love that. I love because trust me, we had the sticker books as well. I mean, that was always a big purchase at the book fair. I'll be the first one to admit it. But you mentioned Kobe. Let's go there because again, this is awesome to me. So everybody knew Kobe, and people still know of Kobe, obviously, even though he's passed away. But how big of an overseas icon was he? I mean, people obviously know him over in Italy because he grew up there and obviously over in the China area just because of Nike and all that. But how big of an icon was Kobe Bryant over in Europe?
As huge as he is in the States, honestly. Like even as a little kid, he inspired me. Like that's how growing up, like I would go on YouTube and all these videos, like you gotta work hard, you gotta be this hard worker in the room. And honestly, that's how I've gotten to where I've gotten, just that mentality, that mold of outwork people and stuff like that. So I would say he's as big there than he is here. That's just his legacy that he's left. Uh, Unfortunately, he's not here no more. But I still like read his books and listen to like former podcasts before he like passed. So he's been a huge influence in my career, honestly.
Okay, so you mentioned how you watched a lot of his film. What was the one move that Kobe did that you continue to perfect to this day?
I would say my middle fade.
Ooh.
I got like my fadeaways in the paint. I'll get to like my footwork and fade and turn around, the turnaround fade. I'd say, yeah, Coach Arrow can talk to you about that more. We perfected that one. So uh,
Um,
yeah, that's one move. I still practice it every day. Just touching it up, perfecting it, getting the higher angle. Just one that always stuck with me, that middle fade.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, okay, so let's go back to the States because you mentioned how Duke was one of the reasons why you wanted to go pursue collegiate basketball over in the States. So walk me through this because I honestly don't know. As an overseas player, do you get to pick and choose where you want to go play basketball, at the prep level, or are you assigned somewhere?
Honestly, I have plenty of friends that come over here, and it's different from everybody. Honestly, it's a lot of contacts,
Mm-hmm.
like people that know the coaches over in the States, or you go to an academy in Europe and they have contact in the States. You definitely don't get to pick and choose. You got to be very fortunate, very well known player to pick and choose where you want to go. Uh, I didn't have that. I had one option, and that was the best option I could have ever got, honestly. So that's I got very blessed where I landed.
So you get to the States, you get situated with the Morris family. And before we talk about them, let's get with Teays Valley. So I talked to Josiah about this as well, about his first recollections of his first practice at Teays Valley. It's different for everybody, but
Yeah.
what do you remember of your first practice with Coach Arrowood at Teays Valley?
So the thing is, Coach Arrowood, love him to death. That's my guy. Uh, on the phone when he recruited me, because we had a really special story of how we got together and how he ended up giving me the opportunity.
So talk about that. Talk about that real quick. Talk about that.
Okay, that I'm gonna try to keep it short. So I had a friend, I think you know him, David Malumba.
Mm-hmm.
Going into my sophomore year in Belgium, I kind of just made my mind. I was like, I want to go. I don't only want to play college. I want to play high school too. So I went and pursued that. So in Belgium, like here, everybody films your high school games. In Belgium, nobody did that back in the day. So I got my mom to record the high school games with an old phone. I bought a little editing app on a computer and used my dad's old work computer, and I edited. The whole games, made a bunch of highlights. At that point, like I said, I was not like well known. I didn't have any like guys that were contacts like some of my friends did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and Googled schools and found emails of coaches, sent a ton of emails with my tape looking for opportunity. Ironically, around that time, David Malumba, he used to play for Huntington Prep, and he transferred to Teays Valley. So this is around May 2016. And he announced that he was transferring on Facebook, and he tagged Coach Ryan. So this is way before I had made my mind up that I want to go to the States. But I said I'm gonna add Coach Ryan because you never know, like might be a contact down the road I can connect with. So fast forward August, the season starts in Belgium. I got that first tape and I sent it to Coach Ryan on Facebook. He had left me open for 2 days. So I was like, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, And then Yeah. Then 2 days later, he messaged me. He's like, I still remember what he said. He's like, "Hey, brother, really like your Tay. What are you looking for?" And I said, "I'm just looking for an opportunity to play at the highest level, high school basketball." We connected, and eventually he had offered me the spot on the team and to come over. And honestly, I shot myself in the foot. Back then, I wasn't a great student. I wasn't a bad student, but like I had C's and B's. And I understand as a head coach, like I was more like the principal, Mr. Davis at Teays Valley. I understand you're not going to take a risk on someone, because you're bringing a kid in from a whole other country. So that opportunity kind of faded a little bit. And then I was devastated, but I busted my ass in class, and by the end of that semester, I got all A's, and I was in a very dark like spot with basketball. I didn't feel motivated anymore. I felt like I had kind of outgrown my surroundings, and I take my last shot at Coach Ryan, and I messaged him. I told him like, "Look, I'm so down to come. I just need the opportunity. I worked on my grades. They were all A's." And I think that showed him the type of character kid I was. And went quick from then. Like 2 weeks later, I had my visa, and like third week, I was in the States. So like just one Facebook ad and message can change your whole life, man. It's crazy.
That's a remarkable story, and arguably, and I'm gonna throw it out here right now. That might be a top 5 story from this
Is it?
podcast. I'm not gonna lie. The fact that you mentioned that Coach Arrowood left you on red for 2 days and then said, "Okay, let's message him back." That's awesome. but
Yeah,
but he's
no,
a great guy. No, he's a great guy. I will admit that.
I had given hope of when I saw that little Facebook picture at the bottom where people read your message. But it worked out for the best.
Okay, so let's go back to my original question. So you mentioned the backstory of getting to Teays Valley and getting connected with Coach Arrowood. So you get to Teays Valley, you get to the States, especially the Scott Depot area. And what do you remember about your first practice at Teays Valley?
Um, the first practice wasn't bad. The thing you got to know about Coach Arrowood, you don't get introduced to real Coach Arrowood until you're about a weekend. He takes it easy on you the first week. He'll tell you that. He'll take it easy on you the first week. But it was a great practice. We played a bunch. The team, when I had just gotten there, the team was hitting a little tough stretch. But it was good practice, man. But then a week later, I got a reality check, and since then, it was just like you get yelled at, and he'll hold you accountable for every single step you take. And I think that's a big part of who I have become and why I've reached my dreams, because he believed in my dream. He believed that I could help the team, and he wouldn't let me be moderate or average one day. Like it don't matter what day it is of the year, summer, winter, and the tournament. He was just gonna hold me accountable, and I love him for that.
You had a successful career early on. You guys had a couple of good games. So let's talk about a couple of those games. One game in particular, as there is currently construction at 10 o'clock at night outside of my apartment. You can obviously hear that. But let's talk about one game in particular that you guys pretty much shocked a lot of people. And I'll be the first one to say that. But you guys had a tremendous season in 2019, during that 2019 season. And no, 2018-2019 season, excuse me. But you guys go on the road and you guys play in the FCA Prep Showcase, and you guys beat then number 7 Oak Hill 80-72. And for people that don't know who was on that roster, well, I'll tell you, lottery pick and former North Carolina Tar Heel Cole Anthony. Yes, you heard that correctly. You guys go on the road and defeat them 80-72. Walk me through that. So let's start at square one. Preparation. What was the enthusiasm like for you all? What was the energy like prior to that game? Walk us through that.
Honestly, we were excited, but we knew we had unfinished business. The year before, we had seen them in that tournament. We didn't have a full team. We had, I think, Anderson and Mason were injured, and we still gave them a run for their money. And I think we as a team, we knew we left something on the floor. And that year, that game against them, not even gonna lie to you, the whole week we knew we were gonna win. Like there was a couple of times in the year where we played really good teams where there's always some doubt, like things got to go right and perfect. I remember the practice before, we knew we was gonna win. Like we were locked in, relaxed, we executed, we played our game. I remember the practice the night before because we went the day before to Tennessee. We knew, like I knew, like there was no doubt. Everybody was on top of the scouting report. And honestly, it wasn't no surprise when we beat him. Like we were super happy, but it was not a surprise to us because we knew we were that level, like that level of team. We were so close together as a group. We were well coached. So honestly we had a bunch of guys with chip on their shoulders. If you look at it that way, like I think we're the only team ever to be ranked in USA today, top 50 without having a ranked guy. I think that tells you enough.
Okay, so we talked about the enthusiasm. Now let's take it from a player scouting report. What was the scouting report for Cole Anthony?
If I remember right, you can't let him go left when he gets. First of all, you have to have we had to pick him up high because if he gets going downhill, it's over. He's so quick and twitchy, so we had to pick him up high, and then we went. I think we went under quick ball screens and just stay in front. We packed it in against him, made him more of a passer because he was just so elite going downhill. And then Kofi was on that team. Honestly, we let Anderson just went at Kofi, and that's just outplayed him in a sense. And then the other guy we really had to worry about was Cam Thomas. He's just a natural scorer. Like you've seen what he's done in the summer league and in the NBA right now. You can't let him get to his left pull up. That's cash. It's just going left. He's cash. So we on that's a long time ago, but I still remember some little details about that. And yeah,
dude, you just brought a massive detail to my attention. I did not know that you guys played Kofi Cockburn as well from Illinois.
He was there. Yeah, he was there. That was the year he was in Oak Hill.
Oh my goodness! Well, this is developing news. I didn't know that because everybody knows about Cole, but
yeah,
wow. So, dude, get this. So you mentioned Cam Thomas as well. He had a tremendous collegiate career. You get that team, that Oak Hill team. You guys, to my knowledge, people can correct me and people can add on to this list. But in my opinion, Kofi Cockburn is a lottery pick whenever he goes to the NBA. So you guys would have played 2 lottery picks in that game. Think about that. Does that ever cross your mind? I mean, obviously, we saw Cole Anthony make it in this past year actually, this most recent draft. But now Kofi's going to be making it next year. Did that ever come across your guys' mind?
In the moment, you don't really focus on that.
Okay.
But afterwards, it does like you feel like okay, we outplayed those guys, we beat them as a team, and we still talk about it like it was not meant to be, but we did it. Like no one saw us doing, but we did it. So at the end of the day, no one can take that away from Teays Valley Christian.
So following that win, you guys get a national ranking as one of the top schools in prep basketball. You guys were ranked 24th in the country by USA Today's Super 25. Whenever you guys saw that ranking, what sort of came across your mind? Well, let's take it from you first. What came across your mind whenever you saw that?
I thought it was deserved. We battled the way Coach Ryan built the program up. That was always like we knew that was the standard. And honestly, I was really happy because like we all like had work for that. That was a goal going into the season. And it's just like we didn't get too caught up. Like, don't get me wrong, like before we were always the underdogs and we didn't get recognized and stuff like that. And when we got that, we got a little more recognition. So that did feel good, getting that respect. Like other teams were actually respecting us now. So that felt great. I still remember, I think it was that ranking came on, I think it was a Tuesday or a Thursday. I still remember we talked about it, looked at it in the locker room, and Coach had talked about it. So, yeah.
So walk me through this. You can correct me if I am wrong. Were you on the team whenever Mason Shiflett hit that game-winning shot against Huntington Prep? Were you on that team?
Yeah, that was my junior year. Me and Mason lived together that year too. That was my junior year. Yeah, Mason, my guy. I still remember I was on the wing when he hit that shot. He drove middle. I was on the right wing, hit that shot.
So that's a monumental win as well, because if you think about it, in recent years, Huntington Prep had Teays Valley's number for the longest time. That's actually where Coach Arrowood came from prior to Teays Valley, and he always had that thought of beating them, on the board or in his mind, but whatever. But whenever you look back at that win, I mean that Oak Hill win's monumental, but also that Huntington Prep win is monumental as well. Just walk me through that game. What did that game mean for you?
That game for me meant a lot because I knew how big of a name Prep was, and I know how big it was for Coach Ryan and for everybody. So I think that game really was our stepping stone. There was I would say in my Teays Valley career, there was 3 games were stepping stones. That was that year in December. We beat First Love after we struggled the whole start of the year. And from there, we actually found our identity. Everybody clicked. Everybody found a role. And we built up and we beat Prep. And that feeling was amazing. I remember everybody storming the court, the feeling afterwards, the buzz around the school, the buzz around us at the games. I think at that point we realized we can be as good as anybody in the country if we played, like Coach Eric would call it, Teays Valley Christian basketball.
Well, I was at that game, and I could definitely feel the buzz because I'm just like, holy.
I remember you, Brad, Shafe, everybody was sitting there.
We were in that corner. We all just looked at each other. We're just like, that just happened. I think that just happened.
Yeah,
it was unreal. That was a tremendous game, like you just said. So let's walk through this aspect of Teays Valley, and then we'll continue on with your basketball career going to Glenville State. But let's start here. So let's talk about this. The Teays Valley community. I mean, it's a small school. Not a lot of people know about the prep team unless you're playing like a Huntington Prep or an Oak Hill for that matter. But the fan base at Teays Valley Christian, in your eyes, how much of a difference did that help just make the game easier for you while you were at Teays Valley?
I think it all started with the community. I think when I got there, first of all, our host families were great. All of us had host families, and I think that made the difference. Like we had so many foreign kids and kids from other states, and we could come into someone's home and be treated like their own child. Like my host family, the Morrises, Teresa, TJ, Brett, Blake, blessing. Like one of the biggest blessings in my life. The things they have done for me, the confidence they have put in me, the time and effort, just being there every day. It's still now, like before this podcast, I was on the phone with them. I love them to death, and it changed my life. But I think the community aspect, when I got to the school, that's really how I felt. When I got to the school, it was Teays Valley Christian, and then there was a prep team. It was 2 separate. A lot of criticism, a lot of doubt, a lot of doubt because it's a new program, this and that. My junior year going in, when we started winning, and we as players weren't only basketball players, we were actual students and talked to everybody at the school. That's when it changed. Like it was like home. Walking into school, it was like home. I felt accepted by the pre-K kids. I felt accepted by the freshmen, the 8th grader. We would talk to anybody and everybody. We would try to make other people's life better with our presence and effect on the basketball court. But we also did that off the basketball court. And then the teachers, they also helped us while we helped them. And it just became a whole family like atmosphere. And like Coach Ryan preached that. He's like, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than basketball. And that's honestly something that's always stuck with me outside of Teays Valley when I graduated, when I was at Glenville, when I'm here, So
and that's exactly what Coach Arrowood mentioned whenever I first had him on my podcast, very early back in this podcast. But you had mentioned that. Now let's sort of branch out from that, and let's sort of talk about that hashtag, because anytime for people that follow Teays Valley Christian basketball, either on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media it is, they always had the hashtag bigger than me. So Stephen, whenever I ask you, whenever you think of that phrase, what comes to mind?
It's bigger than the orange ball bouncing. Like you as a human being from another country, you can have such an influence on a daily daily basis on other people's lives. Like if I see someone at the grocery store, like they might know me, but I don't know them. But like I still go talk to them, ask how their day was, ask where they're from, and stuff like that. I think for me, honestly, it was not only Teays Valley. Like right now, it's like I kind of inherited that. Like it's my life. I talk to everybody. I make sure everybody's good. And I'm thankful for Coach Ryan for like putting it in my life, because before for me it was all basketball. I thought I was a basketball player, but now like I'm bigger than that. Like I have people relying on me, and I gotta make sure everybody's good too. You know, it's not because basketball goes good that everything else is good, and that's just been a big part of my life, man. Just being caring and loving to other people, even though you don't know who they are.
So let's talk a little bit more about Coach Arrowood, and let's sort of, I want to get your opinion on him. So, how much of an influence has Coach Arrowood had on your life?
Honestly, he changed my life forever, ever. Like I'm so thankful for him, and I've said that everybody I've met, everywhere I've gone. For me, is for him to take a chance on a kid he's never met at 16 years old from Belgium. It was like for me, I can never repay that for him. And then the things, there were times where I didn't even see it in myself. Like I didn't even see it myself. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But he always stuck with me, saw how good uh, I could be, and always preach it to me even when I didn't see it. And that just means the world to me. Like till this day, that's like honestly, that's like my biggest mentor till this day. Like I call him once a week, twice a week. We talk about his practice at Rio. We talk about my practices. Uh, we talk about my practices here and how life goes. He got me, and a big part also, like he got me closer to God. Like before that, like before I came to Teays Valley, I was I believed in God, but like he just the way we did the team devotions, we went to the church with his team, that all affected me and molded me into who I am today.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and you're exactly right. Just because anytime I talk with anybody closely related to Coach Arrowood, that always seems to be the theme. Just a family guy, loves to get his guys involved. So yeah, I definitely understand that, and as somebody closely connected with Coach Arrowood as well, I mean, I can definitely understand that as well. So I definitely understand that. This is definitely just turned into a Coach Arrowood appreciation podcast.
That's funny. Last 2 episodes at least.
Well, let's talk about this. And I mean, for people that know me, there's two things that gets frequently talked about in this podcast, and that's basketball and food. So, Steven, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to hold you to this. When you look at all the meals that Teresa Morris has made for you, what's the best thing that she's made? That just anytime you go home, that's always something you always ask for that she makes. What is it?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I ask very tough
I
questions.
don't know how to say it. It's in Thanksgiving. You have that like a cherry pie types thing. Uh,
I know
what
you're
was
talking about. I don't remember the name of it, but yeah.
Yeah, that is always a hit. And Teresa just was good. Her spaghetti was always one of my favorites to come home after practice. Spaghetti. So I know I ate that a lot back home with my parents, who kind of reminded me of being home in a sense. But I was always good eats, man. Like I don't complain. I would good eats.
Now the TJ ever fire up the grill every once in a while and fix you something on the grill?
I hope he listens to this. TJ Morris doesn't cook. He claims he cooks, but he's not cooked once. When dinner is reliable on TJ Morris, we're going to Wendy's getting a 4 for 4.
Oh my goodness. I took a
And I
turn
hope
very quickly.
yeah. So I love TJ. That's my dog too.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about if you had known about West Virginia prior to coming overseas, over to the States, but you've now been established in West Virginia, even though you're now over in Illinois. But what was your first, do you remember the first time you had a pepperoni roll?
Yeah, at Sheets. That's funny.
Oh, dude, come on. Your first pepperoni roll from Sheets?
Yeah, because
Come on,
we would
man.
always walk over to Sheets before practice.
That's a good
So it was
point.
right up. And Anderson used to go crazy on the pepperoni rolls. And one day I was like, let me see what this is about, man. So yeah, I still remember that.
Man, I still can't believe your first pepperoni roll was from Sheets. Man.
I didn't know pepperoni rolls existed until I got to West Virginia, and I didn't know there was a West Virginia thing either.
Yeah,
I would think it was an Italian thing,
it's a delicacy, man. It's a delicacy.
Right? The first one though.
Now I would hope you've had some since.
Yeah,
outside from Sheets.
Definitely.
Okay, thank God.
Had some homemade ones.
Okay, good. I was gonna say we're gonna have a very serious issue if that did not happen. So I'm glad that happened. Okay, so now we've established the pepperoni roll situation. Tutors. Do you remember the first time you had tutors?
Yeah, I remember the first time I had tutors. It's like it took me, I think it was like 2-3 weeks. As a hit, minor biscuit at tutors with a large sweet tea. Who's still the go? I ain't gonna lie, still the go-to. That's a hit. I think first time I went was with Brett. Yeah, that's a hit. And the fried apples also a hit.
Ooh, that's a solid point. That's a solid point on your part. That's a good, yeah. Okay, good, very good. Okay, well, we got food out of the way. I'm glad we got that established. Out of all the things, again, last episode it was Kitchener, making sure I got the correct pronunciation with that. Now it was making sure that Steven had a pepperoni roll, but outside of Sheets, but now tutors. Okay, we got that. We got the most important thing out of the way. Okay, good. Thank God we finally did that. Okay, so Steven, let's talk about your recruiting. So you're in your senior season at Teays Valley and recruiting. Who were some teams that were heavy on you and that you were very interested in at the same time? Who were some of those teams? Do you remember?
Honestly, in recruiting, I wasn't very picky. Honestly, for me, I was trying to go Division I, whatever that was. Early on, I had some interest going into my junior year AAU, beginning of my senior year. Had some interest from like low major schools. Nothing ended up working out. But then I had some Division II offers. My first offer was actually from NAIA school, Pikeville, Kentucky, and I took a visit there together with Mason and Louise. And then a couple weeks later, Odd Elmore, that used to be assistant at Glenville, he came to watch the open gym from us, and I got my second offer from Coach Caldwell and him. And then, honestly, I had an offer from Emmanuel Division II school in Georgia that I flew out and visited too. And then at the very late, VMI had offered me a scholarship too. And I was really considering going there. Things just didn't work out with my transcripts and stuff like that. But it's all God's doing. I wouldn't be here if that didn't happen, or I didn't go to Glenville State.
So walk me through that. So you mentioned how Odd offered you a scholarship. Now, when you first went on your visit at Glenville, what went through your mind?
You know what's funny? I didn't want to go to Glenville. I had made my mind up. I didn't want to go. I'm telling you, it was D1 a break for me. It was D1 a break. That was the dream. I worked so hard to go D1. D1. That's it. So ironically, Coach Caldwell recruited me and Mason at the same time, and then towards the end of the season, he thought I was going to go Division I, but towards the end of the season, he saw I didn't get any more schools, so he came really heavy at me. And we were going to take a visit at Glenville. I still remember it was the one day after we lost in the national championship game in Myrtle Beach. TK, I didn't want to go. I'm going to be dead honest. I'm never going to lie about that. I didn't want to go. I didn't have a ride. My host family couldn't take me. And I decided he's going to drive from Glenville to pick me up at my house, take me to school, and take me back. And that already showed me, like, how much they believed in me. And I took the visit, and I went in with an open-minded. Like, don't get me wrong, I went in open-minded. Until this day, the first step I said in the gym, I knew that was the place for me to be at that time. The feeling I had on my first visit, the connection I had with Coach Caldwell and I, the belief they put in me, what they saw in me, how the team was molding, who they were recruiting, it was all perfect. But the funny thing was, like, I had an amazing day there. Like, I still remember the feeling, but I ignored it. I was like, I'm not going to Division two. I came home. I was like, that was an awesome day, but I'm not going to Division two. That's just what my mindset was. And yeah, I'll say that. And I went on a second visit too. Went on a second visit too, on an overnight visit, and just had a blast with the guys. Had a really good workout with the team. Spent some time with Coach Cowell, and then honestly, after the second visit, I was kind of sold on it. So
Okay, this is a story filled episode, and I think that you might have just broken a record for 2 top 5 stories in one episode. Not kidding. Because the fact that you didn't want to go initially, you saw the effort put in by Coach Caldwell to come down, pick you up, drive you to Glenville, drive you back to Teays Valley. That stuck out to you. You step one foot in the gym and you're like, okay, I can just feel myself coming here. That's just a storybook telling right there. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if there's any other way to put it. I mean, you put it in the context so well. I'm just sitting here and like literally as you were telling that story, I'm sitting here in my room and I'm just like, how was this possible? Like my jaw, I think I probably caught a fly. Like I'm not kidding. I think I caught a fly from the fact that you just my mind is just trying to wrap around this. I mean that's a remarkable story. So just walk me through this then. So you saw the consistent pursuit from Coach Caldwell and Ott as well. What about Coach Caldwell's personality that stuck out to you outside of the fact that he was pursuing you and he was doing it in a manner that you had not seen from other coaches before? What stuck out about his personality to you?
how much believe he puts in his players. He, I didn't see it in myself. Uh, like I didn't know if I was gonna succeed at the college level if I went there, and he just laid it all out for me. And he's like, if you come here and work, you'll succeed. And ironically, it happened. And honestly, what sold me on him, not even so much his basketball. It's like because I could just trust him off the court. Like even before I signed, he was probably not. I don't think he believed I was gonna come. Even before I signed, he would drive hour and a half to come to Teays Valley, eat dinner with me, go play me one on one in the gym, and then drop back. He would come in, pick me up, go watch the States games, drive me back home, drop 2 hours back. Like it was nothing, you know? And for me, it felt like I had someone there that I could go for basketball, and I could go for life. Whatever was going on, I could step in his office and I could talk to him. You know, like that was like I just have so much respect for that man.
Unreal, absolutely unreal, and I love that. So we're going to continue with this Glenville talk. So the team that you played with for one season, what stood out to you about that team? And you know, it's a new team. I mean, you had played over in Belgium. You came to the United States, played 2 seasons at Teays Valley, and you're now at a new environment in a completely new town, new team. I mean, it's literally Glenville's off the interstate. Boom, you're in town. So,
Yeah.
what do you remember about that Glenville team that really sticks out to you, and you'll just never forget about them?
Um, honestly, Glenville was a very special time for me because uh, going in, it was the first time I was really gonna be away by myself, like not even with a host, because it was like being away from my family was easy because I had the Morrises. Glenville was all by myself. Doing that, if you know where Glenville's at, it's 50 miles off the interstate, all woods,
Yep.
middle of nowhere. It's a special place. Like it's a special place with special people. Like the team was really close. We had our characters. Don't get me wrong. We had our characters, funny guys. You know, always had a drama. Uh, but we stuck together. We had so many guys from different backgrounds, and we stuck together. We didn't get as good of a result as we wanted, but my experience there, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like my experience on the court and off the court. Off the court is like I bonded with everyone: the football players, tennis, golf, whatever you want to call it, sports. Like I had friends on every every team and everybody knew each other and we respected each other. And I think that made it so much easier for me because I felt at home. I felt welcome there, you know? Uh, so my time was there, man. Second to none, bro. Like, it's amazing there.
So I want to talk about two people from that team at Glenville. And I want to start with this one. I want to start with one of them, and that's a guy that lived roughly, 15, 20 minutes from where you live down in Teays Valley. That's Noah Frampton from Poca. What about Noah made him such a great person to be around? Because I talked with Luke, and you just hear the joy that he had just talking about his older brother. But for you playing alongside Noah, what was he like as a person? We know about how he is as a basketball player, but who is truly Noah Frampton?
Off the court, he's one of those people you can rely on 24/7. Like, whatever I needed at whatever time of the day, he was always there. In the tough times, we would have lunch together. He would talk to me. He would inject confidence into me. He would always have that belief. We would work out together. I would push him. He would push me. In practice, I ain't gonna lie, he used to come after me, like come after me. And I think that made me so much better. And on the court, he's just an everyday guy. He was there every day. Like, he didn't take a day off. That's his mentality. And I respected that so much. Just his leadership, he made me grow up faster. He made That's like one thing I can admit. Like, off the court, he made me grow up faster. Think about my decisions. Think about, you know, beside basketball. So I'm appreciative for that. Yeah, no, friend, that's my man.
That's awesome to hear. So let's talk about another guy, another West Virginia guy as well, and that's Phil Bledsoe. Played at Wheeling Park and played 2 seasons at Glenville State as well. Averaged 20 points his senior season with the Pioneers as a player. So we just talked about personnel off the court with Noah Frampton, but as a dude on the court, 'cause he's Noah, I mean not Noah, Phil Bledsoe is a dude. How
Yeah,
difficult was it just going up against Phil?
Phil, as coming in as a freshman, Phil never gave me that respect without earning it. He would always talk shit to me, talk trash to me. Sorry, talk trash to me. Always try to make me feel uncomfortable because he knew what I could do once gets comfortable. And he always, and then the day he injected confidence to me as well. But he also showed me how to work hard in a sense. Like, before, I knew, I thought I was a hard worker in high school, but when I came here and Phil would be up at 6 in the morning lifting weights, running in like one of those boxer sweat packs, like just to because he was trying to trim down, lose weight. I would come in the gym, he would already be running. He would be there at night. And there was days, honestly, after the game when he was dead tired, Phil would just come in and run sprints. He wouldn't touch a ball, run sprints just to get in better shape. Just seeing a guy that had been at the level that I wanted to be at, what he did every day, that was huge for me.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome because I think just going back and you can correct me or you can agree with me whenever I say this, but it seems like all these different people that you keep bringing up from Coach Arrowood to the Morris family to Noah Frampton and now to Phil Bledsoe for that matter, it always seems like however much of an impact they make on your life, you always seem to take bits and pieces from them and mold it into you. Am I correct when I say that?
That's what everything in life, man. Like, I'm a big believer, like, who you're around will mold you. And whatever I read a lot of books now, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And when we have speakers come as a team, or like when Coach Mullins here shows us a video and film, I always take notes because there's always an attribute someone else had that you can inherit that can make you better, closer to your goal, a better person, a better basketball player. There's just some, like, you have to be a learner. It's life. If you're not a lifelong learner, you're just gonna get stuck in places. I'm a big believer in that.
Okay, so cool. So let's talk about Southern Illinois, the Salukis. Again, one of my favorite nicknames in all of collegiate basketball, maybe even sports in general, for that matter. I'm not sure. I'd have to make a list. But so you play a season at Glenville. How did Southern Illinois get onto the scene? How did they approach you? Did you know about them before? Walk us through that.
So once I had decided to transfer from Glenville and enter the portal, um, a bunch of schools that reached out, and I still remember it was my first day in the portal. It was about like 9 o'clock at night, uh, and I get a call from an Illinois number, and that was Coach Brendan Mullins, and that's my assistant coach here, and he had talked to me. He's like, I'm from Southern Illinois University, and I honestly didn't know about the Southern Illinois Salukis. And it was just an awesome phone call, man. I still remember, like, we hardly talked about basketball. We had a good laugh. We extended the phone call. Chris Duhan was on there because they used to be former colleagues, and I know Chris Duhan because he lived in Teays Valley area. So we just honestly had a good laugh. Didn't talk much about basketball, and then from there on, it just when it kicked off a relationship, and we still have that relationship to this day, every day.
Okay, so when you first get to campus, again, your basketball journey just involves a lot of traveling, a lot of moving and stuff like that. But you had just played a season at one college. Now you're going to play another season at a completely new college. Was that difficult for you making that transition from one to the other?
Um, yeah, it was difficult. It had its challenges, but at the end of the day, I woke up every day, and like I was living my dream. Like when I got to Glenville, I had a goal of going Division 1. Like Coach Cowell and me had talked about that. Uh, it's like about he's like, if you have a good year, I won't hold you back from going and reaching your dreams. He supported me in that, and that's why I respect him so much. So like, we didn't get into this, but like, as hard and as obsessive as I was over the hard work and over the game and over getting to here, when I got here, there was a lot of difficult times. But at the end of the day, since I was a little kid, I had been preaching to people like I want to be a Division 1 basketball player. So once you get here, it just you got. I'm so appreciative of where I am and the blessings I have in my life.
Okay, so I want to talk about that because you mentioned it. I want to bring it up, and I know that the sports psychology of it for people can be difficult. It can be difficult however you look at it, but I want to talk about it since you brought it up, and I hope I don't push any buttons or cross any lines when I say this. But when you talk about these difficult times, how do you as a person get through them? Because I know as an athlete, you go through a lot of different times and trials in your life, and especially as you get into your adolescent stage, it gets even harder. It seems like, but for you, how do you get through it? How do you cope with that? How do you move on from that?
That's a funny question, man, because it's something you battle. You battle every day. Uh, the tough times, it's always just when you're in it, you can't be too high and too low, and I still struggle with that. You can't ride the wave too high. You can't ride the wave too low. You got to stay level headed. And honestly, a big thing for me that has always been there is this Kobe code. Like the storm is eventually going to end, and when it ends, you got to make sure you're ready. And as hard as it is, as hard as it is mentally to be down, be struggling, you go through struggle. I'm a big believer in that you become a better person and player. As hard as it is, in those times where you don't want to do it, I still make myself wake up early, go shoot, stay late at the gym till 10 on the weekends, go late to the gym and shoot. Because I know eventually when the storm ends, I'll be ready. I'll be ready. The work will show. And it's just, that's always how it's been in life. Just I got to keep that faith. Also, God, I mean, God is always there for me. It's a daily thing. I pray, I have faith. So that's just how I deal with it, man. And just sticking close to your people, man. Like when things get hard, my parents, my sister, my host family, my roommate Trent. Like we just air out some days at night when we lay on the couch, watch some TV. Um, it just yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
how.
I'm gonna ask this, and I hope you don't mind me asking this, but when you look back at these quote unquote difficult times in your life, out of all these events that occurred, give me one that you don't mind sharing that just made you just feel a lot stronger and a lot more sharper as an individual.
All right, I'll pick this one. I have two that I could share, but I'll rather share this one. About 3 months in, I got to Taste Valley. things weren't going good. I wasn't used to getting coached hard like Coach Arrowood. I wasn't used to that. In Belgium, we didn't have that. I missed my family, but in the sense of like, because basketball wasn't going good. I wasn't playing good. And for me, honestly, I'm so obsessed about basketball that sometimes when basketball goes bad, everything else goes bad for me. That's it, you know? And it's a bad attribute to have. It's like it's a gift and a curse in a sense because you care so much. Uh, but about 3 months in, I got really hard. And the doubt creeped in my mind as like, am I meant am I meant to be here? Am I good enough? Because I didn't see results, you know? I was laying on the couch at the Morris's house. I was calling with my parents, and my dad had said, look, if you want to come home, we can just talk to your coach back here, and he'll take you back in the team. I know that for sure. And in that moment, I made a decision. It's either you go back to Belgium, and you just one of the ones that tried it, didn't make it 3 months in, or you decide just to stay and grind it out. And I stayed. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of different times after I stayed. And that was a really hard decision, but so thankful I did it. So thankful I pushed through it. And then honestly, that's kind of when I flipped the switch in my work ethic to even up it more. So then I had a chance to be one of the leaders on the team my junior and senior year.
It's a triumphant story, and I think that's one that should resonate with any high school athlete or even collegiate athlete for that matter that listens to this, especially just listening to Steven's story, just because he's right. I mean, everybody goes through that. I went through that regardless of what age I was. Everybody goes through a moment like that. So, Steven, I appreciate you sharing that. And let's end with a couple of other things. Let's end on a good note. I know we can. You've already established a few records. I hope you can break more. Who knows? But let's start here. Okay. So you just finished your sophomore season at SIU, and you're heading into your junior season with the Salukis. What do you want to improve on the most leading into your third season of collegiate basketball?
Personally, what I myself want to improve on most, just keep growing defensively. I think when I got here, I really was not a good defender, and I've grown humongously in that. Thanks to my coaching staff, thanks to Coach Mullins, for him keeping me accountable every day and pushing me in that aspect. I'd say that, and then also being a playmaker, being more of a playmaker at this level, being able to be that guy to make your teammates better, get your teammates shots. I'd say those are my two big challenges.
Okay, so let's talk about the defensive aspect. How do you go about improving that? You mentioned how you weren't that good of a defender at first, but now you've sort of seen progress. How do you go about making yourself a better defender?
Honestly, it's when I came here in the beginning, we do a lot of shell drills and like a lot of defensive drills. Uh, and it's in the beginning, sometimes you do it just to do it because you have to. But once you flip the switch and you embrace it, you start seeing the results, then you're gonna push so much harder, and it makes you want to be a good defender, makes you want to guard their team's best guy. And don't get me wrong, I'm far from being where I want to be as a defender, but I've always taken that challenge, that it's just taking like just showing up every day and doing it to your best of your ability. I think takes you a long way. Switching that mindset because I always used to say to myself, I'm a bad defender, and now I get the opportunity to work on it every day in practice, and now I'm like, okay, I'm getting better, and you see the growth, and you see, oh, I can be so much better if I keep growing this way. So just like that, and just honestly, my coaching staff just pushed me so much. Appreciate it. They preach it to me every day because they can see it, and I appreciate that belief.
Okay, so let's talk about Coach Mullins very quickly. And I know it's late in this episode. And I apologize, Coach Mullins, for not getting to you sooner. But Stephen, how much of an influence has Coach Mullins made in such a short amount of time for you? Because we've talked about a number of coaches leading up to this point, but now you're with Coach Mullins. You're about to go into season 2 with him. What's different about him compared to your other coaches?
I wouldn't even necessarily compare him or say what's different, but he's a winner and a super hard worker. So like seeing him show up every day the way he does, makes me want to work harder. Like, it was funny because, like, he would always talk to me about his playing days, like his routine, because he's like, he prided himself on being the hardest worker too. And I'm one of those persons. Like, it was funny, like, I still some days have like a competition, like, in my head, like, I don't want to stop shooting until he leaves the office because I want to be the last one to walk at the gym. And like early when I got in my early in my SIU career, was like, I want to get to the gym before he does. You know, I want to be a full sweat before he does, before he walks in the gym. You know, and it's just like when you have that player coach relationship with, like, he pushes you to be the hardest worker, he pushes me to compete every day, even when I don't want to. He pushes me. It just takes you to a whole different level, and his attention to detail is just insane. Like, insane. He doesn't let anything slide. So
And we'll end on this note. So you've had a few practices with this new group of guys for the upcoming season. Give me an early look. When you look at this team, where do you see the biggest leap needs to happen to make this team successful and a contender in the Missouri Valley Conference?
connectiveness. If we can be connected and all on the same page every single night, I think we have a very good shot at getting to a goal of an NCAA tournament and going deep. If we can be connected, compete at a high level, I think it's our fate is in our hands.
Short and sweet. I like that answer. Well, my man, I appreciate this. Again, this is a favorite. This is one of my favorite episodes, quite frankly. Just not just because, one, I've known you for a while, but two, just because, one, you broke a record, but two, it was just filled with a lot of different stories, connecting with people. Quite frankly, you left me just thinking, and I love that. I love whenever stuff like that happens. So I appreciate you doing that. And I hope you enjoyed this. Did you enjoy this?
I definitely did enjoy it. Hey, I've been listening to the foreign one, so it's a blessing to be here, man. It's an honor, and I think we should definitely do a part two mid-season or end season. Just check in again. Maybe we should do a Teays Valley one, man. Teays Valley one with the guys. So
I think you just gave me an idea. I'm gonna use it, and I won't credit you. No, I'm just kidding. I'll credit you. But no, we'll trust me. The door is wide open for you to come back on. So how about this? Instead of me asking you, you let me know when you want to come back on here. I'll clear my schedule. I'll say, the heck with that. I'm getting Steven back on, and we're getting another episode. And how does that sound?
hey, definitely. Hey, you know, I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you, dog. That's for sure. You can keep my word on that.
Hey, I never go against your words. That's a fact. That is a proven fact. So that will conclude episode 69 of Hoops Across the Mountain State with our spectacular guest, Steven Verplancken from SIU, Glenville State, Teays Valley for that matter, Belgium, all the way back to the Dominican Republic as well. I mean, my man travels. My man travels and he can score. So keep an eye out for him as the upcoming season approaches in college basketball as well. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7 for all the latest news and updates about this podcast. Again, shirts are still available. Hoodies are now becoming available as we move into the latter part of the fall and the early parts of the winter as well. Oh, I know. I'm very excited. I'm about to get mine. I'm about to get my hoodie, and when I do, you guys know I'll post something about it. Don't worry about that. And also, hats will be on the way as well. So if you like a ball cap, hit me up. I got you. No big deal. And with that being said, again, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And with that being said, once more, this will conclude episode 69 of Hoops Across the Mountain State with our guest, Steven Verplancken. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe. And we'll catch you all next time with a special guest edition. Now, all my guests are special. I will give them that. But this was one that I had to work for. I will admit that. So you will not want to miss episode 70 coming out on Friday. Keep an eye out for it. Just saying, you're going to want to listen to it. It's filled with a lot of great stories, as all my podcasts are. But you will not want to miss that one. Stay tuned.